Monday. And I don't know if you like this image or not, but I want to give credit where credit is due. This image was created by a version of ChatGPT called DALL-E. I described what I wanted it to be, and this is what came out. And what was remarkable, this was what they call the first shot, the very first attempt, before I tried to tweak the lighting and the color and the drawing style and all that. There's a lot of variables you can specify if you want. So I was really pleased with that. This was came out so effortlessly. This represents about 1 minute worth of effort. Pretty amazing. More to come. So the temple of the Holy Spirit, just as an introduction, consider that there are temples to the ego, and there are many of them. And a person can easily substitute one temple to the ego for another. What would happen if you or I were unwittingly lured into the ego's temple, mistaking it for the dwelling place of love, and listening to the strange religion of the ego, where unholy relationships are idolized? Well, if we were lured into that, we could remain there and pay tribute to the religion of the ego with our life, or we could choose again and depart from the ego's temple. But to what destination should we depart? Well, thankfully, the Holy Spirit invites us to the temple of love, where holy encounters with others provide the proof that salvation is shared. Welcome to Miracles on High Plains. I'm your host, Jonaca, and our reader today is David S. By the way, we're going to go back one paragraph before today's reading, just as a introduction to what we'll read in the Temple of the Holy Spirit.
Be comforted and feel the Holy Spirit watching over you in love and perfect confidence in what he sees. He knows the Son of God and shares his Father's certainty. The universe rests in his gentle hands in safety and in peace. Let us consider now what he must learn to share his Father's confidence in him. What is he that the creator of the universe should offer it to him and know it rests in safety? He looks upon himself not as his Father knows him, and yet it is impossible the confidence of God should be misplaced. The meaning of the Son of God lies solely in his relationship with his Creator. If it were elsewhere, it would rest on contingency, but there is nothing else. And this is wholly loving and forever. Yet has the Son of God invented an unholy relationship between him and his Father. His real relationship is one of perfect union and unbroken continuity. The one he made is partial, self-centered, broken into fragments, and full of fear. The one created by his Father is wholly self-encompassing and self-extending. The one he made is wholly self-destructive and self-limiting.
I really love what it says here For in many ways, this describes the central existential problem that all humanity faces. Each of us face it individually, but it's faced by us all. And that is the issue that he, meaning you and I, look upon ourselves not as the Father knows us, not as the Father knows us. We look upon ourselves in a different narrative, in a different light, through the critical eye of the ego. We look upon ourselves, and that causes us to be very confused and very, in many ways, upside down in our self-concept. And so it brings us to the first paragraph in this section. What are we? What is the nature of our being? What is the meaning of our life? And the Course offers an answer to this. The meaning of the Son of God, your true nature, lies solely in your relationship with your Creator. People have attempted to find the meaning elsewhere, but those attempts inevitably fail. The true meaning is forever true and lies in a relationship with the Creator. And so now we have a duality. We have the true meaning of our relationship to the Creator and its opposite, which is where you and I invent an unholy relationship between ourselves and our Father. So we have a contrasting, and these become thought systems. One anchored in the awareness of the love of God for all of creation, and another that wants to erase the role of the Creator from that narrative and make it into what's called an unholy relationship. And so later on in our reading, when we refer to the temples of the ego, we'll be referring to a set of ideas. You can think of it like a matrix of ideas and stories where the unholy relationship to the Creator forms the foundation. And so two different thought systems, the one that we made here on Earth, a broken, fragmented thought system full of fear, and the other one created by the Father, which has entirely different attributes. We refer to it as wholeness and as oneness. Will, I saw your hand up.
Yes. My question is this: in the second paragraph, the second sentence from the end, the one he made,
Mm-hmm.
who is the one?
It would be you and I. It would be symbolically you and I. Will, it's us under the direction of our ego.
Okay.
It's we refer to it also as our little self, our fearful self, the one that is taking this course, the one that is seeking inner peace, but hasn't yet acquired a full set of experience with inner peace.
Got it.
I like to think of it as it will, because it's you and I, as we have attempted to adapt and adjust ourselves to the chaos of this world. That's what it is. It's you and I adapted to illusions of the world, which results in confusion and a self-concept that is broken into fragments and full of fear. Thank you for asking that, because it's always important to understand we are talking about Not our true self, but our confused self. We'll go on.
Nothing can show the contrast better than the experience of both a holy and an unholy relationship. The first is based on love and rests on it serene and undisturbed. The body does not intrude upon it. Any relationship in which the body enters is based not on love, but on idolatry. Love wishes to be known, completely understood, and shared. It has no secrets, nothing that it would keep apart and hide. It walks in sunlight, open-eyed and calm, in smiling welcome, and in sincerity so simple and so obvious it cannot be misunderstood. But idols do not share. Idols accept, but never make return. They can be loved, but cannot love. They do not understand what they are offered, and any relationship in which they enter has lost its meaning. The love of them has made love meaningless. They live in secrecy, hating the sunlight and happy in the body's darkness, where they can hide and keep their secrets hidden along with them. And they have no relationships, for no one else is welcome there. They smile on no one, and those who smile on them, they do not see.
So the Course goes to great length to distinguish between these two contrasting views of reality, of life. And I think one of the easiest ways to simplify it so that we don't get lost, lose sight of the forest from the details of the trees, is to see it as a contrast between a holy relationship and an unholy relationship. And those are just words. We need to understand, what do we mean by those words? In a holy relationship, which was originally born in the Creator's mind and then imparted into all of us when we were brought into, our being was brought into creation, a holy relationship is a relationship of togetherness. As it says here, love wishes to be known, completely understood, and shared. A holy relationship is a oneness that goes beyond thought and feelings to a common identity, a common purpose. We would say in philosophy, a common set of meanings and values, a shared understanding. And an unholy relationship is not any of that. It's all fragmented and separated apart. And what an unholy relationship does, we're talking about the egos, how the ego would have us relate. An unholy relationship substitutes idols for the holy relationship. And what do we mean by idols? Idols can be anything. You can make anything into an idol. It's something that we wind up cherishing and valuing deeply, but which in reality has no enduring value. So the ego would have us focus on things that have no enduring value or meaning. And that results in our being minded towards the valueless and the meaningless. And with that comes a whole cascade of thoughts and emotions that ultimately result in resignation, hopelessness, and despair. Noel?
I would say, too, that a distinguishing factor between the two is that love has no fear, is fearless. But under the idols, is complete fear that probably is dictating all actions.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. As a matter of fact, a great deal, as we said, of attention is given so that you would not confuse these two with each other, so that you would learn to distinguish one from the other in a very specific way. And this isn't really matters here, what I'm about to say. When you look inside yourself and ask the question, how am I doing? What am I about? Was my life all about? When you look inside yourself, you can distinguish between those parts of you that are drawn towards love and want to move in that direction, and those parts of you that you have learned in this world that would draw you towards idols and unholy relationships, that you would see clearly the difference between the two, for only then can you make a choice, a free will choice. If you can't distinguish the difference between the two, then you can't make a free choice. It's a confused choice, but it's not an informed choice. Kim?
That last paragraph to me gives a nice visual, not a nice visual, a visual of what depression, despair, and what can happen to us when we allow that kind of thing to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate being able to see that kind of visualized there.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. It does, just real quick, a little story. So there was, I'm not going to mention specific names, but there was an actor who aspired all his life to be a successful movie actor. And you know the story, a lot of people have to move out to Hollywood or when they're young and wait on tables and wait for their big chance. And that can take years and years. And finally got his big chance and became a movie star and was making millions of dollars per movie. And so, you know, part of what goes with that is you then buy the multi-million-dollar house, and then you have all the acclaim and everything like that. And so he's got this big house now, and he takes a look inside himself and says, how are you doing? And he's completely unhappy. He spent all this time pursuing a set of values and meanings, which once he had received them, he decided they did not bring him happiness, and he found emptiness. And this story has a sad ending. So, feeling completely empty, he took his life. And so it's an indication. I'm trying to that there are these idols, which many people would say, my goodness, you're a movie star making millions of dollars per movie, and you've got this big house, and people are giving you awards and everything. You've made it. You've gotten everything that one could hope for. And then the individual decides that these idols are not, the love of them has made love meaningless. Interesting. So we want to avoid, this is a warning sign like construction on a road. This is like, beware, construction ahead, don't run off the road. These are warning signs so that we would not fall into those psychological, emotional, and spiritual traps. David?
Love has no darkened temples where mysteries are kept obscure and hidden from the sun. It does not seek for power, but for relationships. The body is the ego's chosen weapon for seeking power through relationships. And its relationships must be unholy, for what they are, it does not even see. It wants them solely for the offerings on which its idols thrive. The rest, it merely throws away, for all that it could offer is seen as valueless. Homeless, the ego seeks as many bodies as it can collect to place its idols in, and so establish them as temples to itself.
Mhm. So those who've been reading the Course for a while know that the Course can take a very cold, hard look at the nature of the ego. And it does so here, focusing on how the ego seeks power through relationships. In other words, it wants to use relationships as a weapon for achieving its own power. It's based upon a lack of awareness of the spiritual power within us and in the belief that the power exists externally and has to be sought out there. And then if those relationships do not provide the power that it wants, it merely throws them away, for all that they could offer is seen as valueless. And so let me bring your attention amongst all these words back to the idea of a holy relationship and an unholy. And when we say relationship, we mean really broadly speaking, a relationship with other beings of our kind. A holy relationship or an unholy relationship. The ego wants to use those relationships as weapons for achieving what it believes as power that they might offer. Whereas holy relationship sees value in the relationship itself, because, as we read previously, love is intended to be shared. It's a form of common and joint appreciation. And so love values a relationship with other like entities. That relationship in itself is of value. David?
This is really hitting me in some way in my personal life, which is great when I can take the Course and actually apply it to my personal life, which is that's what's supposed to be happening all the time. But somehow my intellect gets in the way and my ego gets in the way. So a couple of paragraphs before, it talks about love wishes to be known, completely understood and shared. It has no secrets, nothing that it would keep apart and hide. It walks in sunlight, open-eyed and calm. And I love this line, and smiling, welcome, and in sincerity, so simple and so obvious, it cannot be misunderstood. So I'm going to take this all the way down, bang, 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 to my personal relationship with Susie, which, according to the definition, is an unholy relationship. But there are moments when it's a holy relationship, and that's our aspiration, is for it to be a holy relationship. And I've been so confused at times, because the reference about, she'll say, well, you're just not being honest. You're not honest. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I'm being honest. I'm saying what I think to be the truth, and this and the other thing. And reading these lines, it has no secrets, nothing that it would keep apart and hide. That's the definition of honesty. And as an egoed person in the body, in the illusory state, I'm not an open book, so to speak. All right. Even though we have no private thoughts, I'm still not an open book. And it's just so true that pure love has no motives and it has no secrets. And it's something that I'm aspiring to be more of. And it's a process. This is not an event where sometimes you're struck pure. At least that's not my understanding until I guess I cross the bridge, at which point there'll be no need for any other thoughts. Anyway, this really spoke to me, so I wanted to comment on it. And it has meaning in my everyday life, which is always important.
Thank you, David. So David just says, I'm not an open book. And yet many of us would feel blessed by his opening to us in the way he just did. So it is a journey. Each one of us are on our own journey making progress. But I feel blessed to have brothers and sisters as all of you in this path together. So before we go on, let's just want to point out to you the idea that the ego feels homeless. The ego feels lost without, now, what do we mean by home? We don't mean a house that you have a title to and that's where you keep your furniture and your belongings and you live. What we mean is a point of safety and of peace, a place within your being where you feel perfectly fine, perfectly safe, perfectly trusting and peaceful. That can be in any spot on earth because the safety and the peace comes from within, not from without. But the ego is disconnected from that peace within and therefore feels homeless. I'm just wondering if one of our friends who I've talked to, she's not on the call right now. So the ego feels homeless. And one of the unspoken intents of this reading today is that you would recognize where your lasting home is. Where can you find safety, trust, peace, and an eternal home? Hopefully we'll find the answer to that.
The Holy Spirit's temple is not a body, but a relationship. The body is an isolated speck of darkness, a hidden secret room, a tiny spot of senseless mystery, a meaningless enclosure carefully protected, yet hiding nothing. Here, the unholy relationship escapes reality and seeks for crumbs to keep itself alive. Here, it would drag its brothers, holding them here in its idolatry. Here, it is safe, for here, love cannot enter. The Holy Spirit does not build his temples where love can never be. Would he who sees the face of Christ choose as his home the only place in all the universe where it cannot be seen?
Yeah. Jerry, I didn't know if you were trying to share or raise your hand.
No, I just wanted to make a comment. David, that what you just talked about with yourself is an amazing insight into who you are, and it's just I've got the chills about it, frankly. That's amazing. I hope I can get to that place someday. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you, Jerry. That was lovely. So we said that the ego is homeless. And then you can read about all of that experience of the ego searching forever for something to keep itself alive, and using other people as means of acquiring its own power. And then if it finds they cannot provide the ego with what it wants, it casts them off. So let's contrast that with what the Holy Spirit offers, because we're reading about the temple of the Holy Spirit, which is our home. The Holy Spirit does not build temples. They're not physical structures. They are structures where love is found. And this is the only place in all the universe where you can find love. And so the answer to our question, what is the home that the Holy Spirit offers? Well, it surprises you. The home the Holy Spirit offers is a relationship with all creation. You think about it, this is an experience of eternity. This is an ongoing relationship with others who are created along with you, and with you, your relationship to the Creator. That is our home. And the Holy Spirit's role is to help you to remember that's where you're safe. That's where you can trust. That's where your peace is to be found. Not as we know, especially in South Florida, where we have had 10 hurricanes in the last 30 years, many homes are destroyed. They're gone. I'm talking physical homes now. Destroyed, gone, very vulnerable to weather conditions. But what the Holy Spirit offers is invulnerable. It's permanent. It's a place of safety and identity and trust that is eternal. So the Holy Spirit's temple, its home, is a relationship. David?
You cannot make the body the Holy Spirit's temple, and it will never be the seat of love. It is the home of the idolater and of love's condemnation. For here is love made fearful and hope abandoned. Even the idols that are worshipped here are shrouded in mystery and kept apart from those who worship them. This is the temple dedicated to no relationships and no return. Here is the mystery of separation perceived in awe and held in reverence. What God would have not be is here kept safe from him. But what you do not realize is what you fear within your brother and would not see in him is what makes God seem fearful to you and kept unknown.
I want to focus on this last line because there's a message here, and I'm not sure that it's completely transparent. It's interesting. Christoph and I have talked about this idea on any number of occasions. It's about the hidden fears that lie within us. These would be obstacles to our peace. Fears that are constructs of our own thought process that act as barriers to our experiencing our spiritual home. and they're hidden. You do not realize them, but there is something in your brother which you fear. Okay. All right. So, what are we talking about here? What is it that I fear in my brother? I don't know. And this is something the ego would not see, would ignore, and so as to perpetuate the fear and keep it alive. That's what a hidden fear is about. It's one that continues to go on because it lurks in the corners of your subconscious mind where it goes unchallenged and therefore continues to reside within your thought system. What you don't realize is what you fear within your brother. And what is that? It's what makes God seem fearful to you and kept unknown. So what they've just done is they've linked the unseen fear of your brother to your own unseen fear of God. Now, this makes perfect sense from the ego's point of view. The ego is afraid of everything. It's afraid of your brother. It's afraid of you. It's afraid of God. So from the ego's point of view, it makes logical sense that those fears would exist, and in order to perpetuate them, they would remain hidden. Of course, it makes no sense to the part of our mind that is seeking for peace and healing and wholeness, because why would we want to allow those fears to continue if we're seeking for peace? Well, the problem is we don't realize that those fears are there. We would not see them, and they remain unknown to us. They remain hidden. And this is where we all need the Holy Spirit to help us see these things, to bring out of the dark, the shadows, these hidden fears, expose them, and along with that exposure, show us what the alternative is, and then we can choose again. Susie?
Yeah, so this is where I think, for me, the course started to get really, really deep. Like, if I really want to heal, I have to find out, with the help of the Holy Spirit, what is really my hidden beliefs and fears. And, needing to leave my ego out of it, because I'll never get there if I do, having the realization that I'm really not separate, and that my brother really is the same as me, and we really are all one mind and love, is so distasteful to the ego. It's so distasteful to the ego, which has dominated my thought system for decades, my thinking, my thought system. That's the undoing. I'm just constantly trying to undo and recognize what really is going on with me deep down inside that wants to keep me separate from my brothers. And it's all part of the ego thought system. I know that. I know this now. It's so different than what my thinking has been for so long. So for me, it's vigilance all the time. Now, I couldn't do this for years. For years, I couldn't do this. But it's like, there it is, that thought, that loveless thought, that attack thought. Please, Holy Spirit, I don't even want that thought, or help me recognize what that thought even means. So, I just wanted to share that I just get this, and it's took years for me to really understand that I have so much hidden
Mhm.
inside. Yeah. So I just keep working on trying to bring it, like, discover so I can recover, uncover and discover so I can recover. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Susie. It is true that exposing these hidden fears is an existential threat to the ego. This is the ego's greatest fear, that these things would first of all be uncovered, as Susie said, and then you would realize that's what's holding me back, and you would dedicate your mind to undoing a life devoted to ego fear. You would dedicate yourself to choosing again. That threatens the ego in a most profound way. So, in summary, the ego has a great investment in keeping these fears that are in your, that you believe to be in your brother, a secret. And so we need an answer to that. We need an understanding, not just the words that there's something in our brother that we fear, but we need to understand at a internal level of meaning what that is. Only then can you freely choose not to partake of it, if when you see the devastating effect that it has. So we've already said that the fear within your brother is no different than the fear we have of God. So you can think of this as the universal fear that is expressed and shows up in relationships to other people that maybe we have not included in our inner circle. Maybe there are our secondary, tertiary relationships, or even people we don't even know that we've heard about. What is this suspicion, this uneasiness that we have? Well, hopefully the Course will provide us more understanding.
Idolaters will always be afraid of love, for nothing so severely threatens them as love's approach. Let love draw near them and overlook the body, as it will surely do, and they retreat in fear, feeling the seeming firm foundation of their temple begin to shaken and loosen. Brother, you tremble with them. Yet what you fear is but the herald of escape. This place of darkness is not your home. Your temple is not threatened. You are an idolater no longer. The Holy Spirit's purpose lies safe in your relationship and not your body. You have escaped the body. Where you are, the body cannot enter, for the Holy Spirit has set his temple there.
So, the Course in Miracles is written in this poetic style, which can be interpreted in a number of ways, without a doubt. And so what I'm going to do here is offer an interpretation. You can say, this is the way I see it at this time, or this is what's true for me now. I'm not saying it's absolutely true. But the question is, what is it we fear in our brother? And it's spoken about here. And remember, these are things that are not understood by our conscious mind by definition. They're universal fears, true for all, but unexamined. And I've read extensively in psychology, and I can tell you that for the most part, the psychologists have not identified this. This is not clearly understood here. And so it's about being comfortable with where you're at. Actually, David spoke to it indirectly. It's about an idea of the ego wants to keep things the way they are, not free you from your past to move into a creative future. The ego would encourage you to leave things as they are so fear can continue to control your mind. And what you fear is the idea of escaping from the ego's clutch. Susie, we're all referring to this indirectly, not necessarily fully conscious of it, but there is a part of us that our entire history on this world is identified with our past and therefore has adapted to it and is done our best to try to make a home in a world of chaos, to adjust ourselves to it. And what the ego fears the most is you're escaping from that to something else. And the ego wants you, remember, these are fears. These are not realities sponsored by spirit. These are fears, are temptations, they're belief systems sponsored by the ego. And it wants you to fear the idea of escape. So that we have to be reminded that our home is not to remain in the prison cell of the ego, which we just read seems to have a firm foundation, but in fact is very unstable. The truth is that you can only be free by escaping to the Holy Spirit solution. And that notion causes your ego to tremble and quake. And it then attempts to get you to join it in that fear of escaping. Jerry?
Maybe this is not logical thinking, but I'm thinking all of this comes around with trust.
Yeah.
You may do lots of things that the ego would want you to do, but yet the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable doing it. Whereas if you dump it and destroy the ego aspect of yourself, what have you got left until you replace it with something else, which would be the trust in God?
Yes.
But maybe you don't trust God either.
Right.
So it really is a dilemma. I don't see how you just keep going around in this wheel. So when you break that ego, the thing that you don't like with respect to your ego, when can you, or what's the period of time, or how long does it take to replace that with trusting God?
Mm-hmm. Jerry, you are right on, brother. You are right on it. This is metaphorically like the trapeze performer that lets go of the bar and flings into the air and is for momentarily untethered and trusting that there's going to be a person with perfect timing on the other end who, no matter what, is going to securely grab her. So yes, for certain. And as you said, it's about a trust in God. Your question was about the period of time in between, kind of while you're swinging in the air, untethered. The course would really recommend this is why it's a gradual process. For many people, Jerry, years of letting go of the ego. And during that period, increasingly learning to trust and believe that God will grab you, that will catch you. So very few people does this happen in 3 months, that they let the ego go completely and they're completely in the arms of God. 3 years, yes. So it's not the Holy Spirit is not looking to rush you into this and toss you into the wind and frighten you there. It's a very gentle transition. Matter of fact, this is what time is for, to allow you to gently let go of the ego a step at a time, at the rate at which you're willing to let go. And during that time of letting go, you're also building trust and confidence that there are loving arms that will catch you. So you are right on about the phenomenon. And actually, just one more side thing. It would be still worse to let go and have no belief that there's anyone going to catch you. That's existential despair, hopelessness. That's no hope of being caught whatsoever. That is deeply frightening to the mind, that I'm going to have no foundation. I'm just going to fall into the abyss. So we're not recommending that. We are recommending, as you said, a building of trust, a trust building period. And so, to use the metaphor once again, the trapeze artist might swing back and forth 5, maybe 10 times before she lets go. And that's a period of time where you're saying, oh, yeah, my catcher is right where he was supposed to be. Let's do it one more time. Yep, he's right there where he's supposed to be. And eventually you take a leap of faith and let go, believing that the catcher is going to be right where he's supposed to be. He's got you. So it does. Yes, a leap of faith is required to let go completely.
Yeah.
Susie, you had your hand up. Oh, maybe not. Yes. All right.
Sorry. It's kind of crazy that Jerry asked this question right before I'm going to share this, but of course it's not crazy. It's all the way it's supposed to be. I've shared this with you a little bit, Jonaca, but I had this complete idol relationship with golf, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing. I just want to go into the healing part of it. And, I really thought that just playing great and being great and whatever would bring me peace and joy and happiness. And if only I could. And, obviously that wasn't the case. And I had so much fear around not looking perfect and what would everybody think and all that stuff of the ego. And so many times I was like, oh, I'm just not going to play anymore. I'm just not going to play anymore. But I really could not perceive my best interests. I knew there was a lesson in this struggle for me that God wanted me to learn. I knew somehow that I was supposed to find joy and peace on the golf course and be of service to others. But my ego, of course, didn't want any part of that. And that wasn't true for my ego. And golf kept showing up in my life. So I figured I got to surrender to what the Holy Spirit keeps bringing to me. If golf wasn't supposed to be in my life, I think my relationship with it would have ended. But it didn't. And I kept praying and I kept using the lessons and applying it to my fears around golf and my idolization around golf. And Jerry, it took me a really long time, but I hung in there with the Holy Spirit. I hung in there. I kept using the lessons, especially the first 50. Fear is the stranger here, just, whatever. God goes with me wherever I go. And I have to say that I have an entirely different relationship. Yesterday, I was out there with two women I don't know, which would have had me shaken in my shoes, prior to all this. I had so much joy, and I can't even explain it out there, that I didn't even know that I was playing golf. And that is shocking. And not to mention, one of the women's husband died from liver cancer, which is what David had. So I don't know why I'm going to play 9 holes. I'm going to play with a woman who needed to talk to somebody about liver cancer. It was a remarkable afternoon, and it didn't have that much to do with golf. So, I don't know what anything is for. I really don't. I've only given golf the meaning that it used to have for me. So to answer you, for me, I just hung in there with the Holy Spirit against my ego's wishes to find a different meaning and a different way of how I could look at golf. So I don't know. It's pretty remarkable. Even Jonaca, you said to me, I didn't think golf was going to be a teacher for you like this, but it has been. So I don't know if that helps at all, but for me, you brought up the word trust, and that helped me have so much trust in the Holy Spirit's guidance, So anyway, I don't know if Sandra's here, but I'm complete.
Thank you, Susie. That was amazing.
Thanks, Susie. I think what I was thinking when you were just talking about golf, you never know what the catalyst is.
Yes.
That's going to send you in the right direction.
Yes.
Could be a catalyst that could send you in the wrong direction if you're still in the ego mode. But yeah, I guess it's not. You have to be open to what's happening around you and not look at it just from, as you pointed out, just the perspective of playing golf. But what's the medium? What's helping you get to the point by helping somebody else? That's really. Thank you very much for that.
All right, we've got 2 more comments. Julie from Virginia.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, hi. So, Jonaca, I'm back to thinking about one of the instructions that you shared, which is pay attention to how you feel. So I now can pretty much say that if I'm grumpy and sour, I'm missing something about the possibility of connection with the Holy Spirit. It's unquestionable, period, end of sentence. And so that for me is, I'm going to just try and embrace the obvious and use that tool a whole lot more.
Thank you, Julie. It is that indicator is with you at all times, and it's really easy to tell, is the light on or the light off? So it's really, all of us could practice that, and I'm so glad to hear that you're committed to it. Noelle?
Thank you, Susie. Jerry, I want to address your word catalyst. For me, the catalyst can be something that I really want so badly, think that it's going to make me happy. If only when I get this, I'll feel good. And you always has to do with how other people perceive me, how I value my worth, what I think I have to pay to exist. all that kind of thing. And of course, it's all from the ego. So those are my touchstones for catalysts to turn it over to the Holy Spirit.
Yes, the word used often in miracles is vigilance. You got to stick with it. All right, we're going to go on here. Thank you all for your sharing. I really appreciate it. It really helps.
There is no order in relationships. They either are or not. An unholy relationship is no relationship. It is a state of isolation, which seems to be what it is not. No more than that. The instant that the mad idea of making your relationship with God unholy seemed to be possible, all your relationships were made meaningless. In that unholy instant, time was born, and bodies made to house the mad idea and give it the illusion of reality. And so it seemed to have a home that held together for a little while in time and vanished. For what could house this mad idea against reality but for an instant?
Mm-hmm. So it may not be obvious, but they're describing the separation here. And we can think of it for a moment as the original separation, because it is referring to in that unholy instant, time was born. And what is the basis for that separation? It's an idea, a mad idea, a tiny mad idea that concerns your relationship with God. And you can say it in any way you want, but it's a movement away from your relationship with God. It assumes previously a closeness, a union, a trust, loving trust. It's a movement away from that. Now, what I'm about to say is hard to accept, is that idea keeps repeating in the mind of the ego again and again, even today. And that if you don't pay attention, the hidden aspect of that idea to keep your distance from God will play out in your subconscious mind in ways that are unknown and hidden from you. In fact, it's a fear of the love of God. And we read earlier that you'll displace it into your relationship with your brother and find fear in your brother, because the God within your brother represents the love of God to you as well. And this mad idea within you is to fear that love. So here's where we have the ultimate madness: to fear the love and instead substitute the love for fear. Let me re-say that. The ego would promote us to fear the love and to love the fear. It's the ultimate upside down, and it's an emotional state, by the way. It has to do with your feelings. And this must be healed in order for us to find inner peace. Because if our emotions are that upside down, where we fear the love and love the fear, then all of our reaction, we just said a moment ago that your feelings come up all the time. They're a great indicator. They're with you all the time. That if that's upside down, then is it impossible? Yes, it's impossible to move forward to inner peace and while existing in chaos of not being able to detect the difference between when to love and when to fear. And so in that situation, all your relationships to others are made meaningless. Under a situation where you fear the love, then, well, what is there to a relationship? If you fear the loving qualities in another, if your ego fears the loving qualities in another, and you subscribe to that position emotionally, you share that fear, then what is there to a relationship? There's nothing. It's an unholy relationship. And that's where your ego would make your home. So our purpose here is to not discourage you with this, but to say these things have been hidden. They are no longer hidden. We are exposing them here. And in the light that the Holy Spirit offers, there's the perfect alternative, the perfect solution. But the fact that there is a solution is not enough. You have to choose to align your mind and the power of your mind with that solution.
Idols must disappear and leave no trace behind their going. The unholy instant of their seeming power is frail as is a snowflake, but without its loveliness. Is this the substitute you want for the eternal blessing of the holy instant and its unlimited beneficence? Is the malevolence of the unholy relationship, so seeming powerful and so bitterly misunderstood, and so invested in a false attraction, your preference to the holy instant, which offers you peace and understanding? Then lay aside the body and quietly transcend it, rising to welcome what you really want. And from his holy temple, look you not back on what you have awakened from, for no illusions can attract the mind that has transcended them and left them far behind.
We're going to move on to the next paragraph.
The holy relationship reflects the true relationship the Son of God has with his Father in reality. The Holy Spirit rests within it in the certainty it will endure forever. Its firm foundation is eternally upheld by truth, and love shines on it with the gentle smile and tender blessing it offers to its own. Here, the unholy instant is exchanged in gladness for the holy one of safe return. Here is the way to true relationships held gently open, through which you and your brother walk together, leaving the body thankfully behind and resting in the everlasting arms. Love's arms are open to receive you and give you peace forever.
Oh, it really, I just saw the trapeze artist in this here. The arms are open to receive you, and that you have to leave behind the safety you had on your original trapeze in order to be received by the loving arms. I didn't realize that was we were going to encounter that. So let's refocus here back to the top. What are we talking about? We're talking about a state where you can feel safe. Jerry pointed it out very articulately, the idea of, well, if we let go of the ego's thought system, then and if we have not yet built trust in the Holy Spirit's thought system, then what do we have? We're not recommending you let go until you build trust. And what are we to build trust in? It's this thing called the holy relationship. And so let's make sure we're very clear about it. There is two levels here. The original relationship is the relationship between the creator and all creation. We call that the original relationship. Conceptually, this is before the separation. There's perfect harmony and oneness and undiluted divine love. The holy relationship is an experience in time that reflects the original relationship. It's, to the best of our ability now, a reflection of what that original union was like. I'm not saying it's the same, but it reflects that. It's inspired by that. And the Holy Spirit underwrites that relationship. She rests with it and affirms that it will endure forever, that this is the firm foundation, this idea of the original relationship and your ability to extend it in time through your own relationships, that is the firm foundation that is underwritten by the Holy Spirit, upheld by truth, et cetera, et cetera. So, David, when we talk about a remembering or returning, we're talking about just that, a returning to the original relationship. That's the firm foundation. It never left. In truth, it was always there. We just got confused in our mind when the tiny mad idea, the idea of distancing ourselves from the Creator, entered our mind. And then that spread and became a whole world view of the world. Now we're being gently encouraged to let go of that, undo that, and instead exchange that for this firm foundation, which is reflected in the original relationship between the Son and the Father. Noel?
In this process, a phrase in the previous paragraph is very important to me. Look you not back on what you left, because my tendency is to keep grinding around and around on what I left and even question, should I have left? So just keep going ahead in trust, like the trapeze artist.
Yes. If the trapeze artist is looking back at where they let go of, they're going to miss here. Maybe it's just me, but the minute you said that, Noel, I thought of Lot's wife. Look back. One instruction. We're leaving Sodom and Gomorrah, the fire and the destruction of death there. We're escaping, but one instruction, don't look back. So it's true for us. This is the way Course in Miracles makes it personal. These classic stories are no longer just history, but they're personal. Look not back, lest we become salty.
The body is the ego's idol, the belief in sin made flesh and then projected outward. This produces what seems to be a wall of flesh around the mind, keeping it prisoner in a tiny spot of space and time, beholden unto death, and given but an instant in which to sigh and grieve and die in honor of its master. And this unholy instant seems to be life, an instant of despair, a tiny island of dry sand, bereft of water and set uncertainly upon oblivion. Here does the Son of God stop briefly by to offer his devotion to death's idols and then pass on. And here he is more dead than living. Yet it is also here he makes his choice again between idolatry and love. Here it is given him to choose to spend this instant paying tribute to the body or let himself be given freedom from it. Here he can accept the holy instant offered him to replace the unholy one he chose before. And here can he learn relationships are his salvation and not his doom.
So it's a choice of where you make your home, of where you, by our home, where you seek for your sense of permanence, of meaning, your sense of peace and belonging. With Jerry's word, where do you place your trust, your faith? And there could not be a bigger difference between the two. David, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did. You know, this last two paragraphs, particularly this last reading here, really speaks to me. And because, you know, how many times, and I've been in this course for a few years now, and I've read this text more than once, and this section more than once. And today before class, my ego was giving me the what for and ruminating about how many times you're going to read this stuff over and over again. What are you going to get out of this? You keep reading his stuff. You keep going through it. You know, what kind of a, you know, what, you know, are you going to really get it? Or is there anything, are you getting anything more out of it? And this reading today and this particular paragraph, to me, you know, I'm dense. It takes me a long time to get this stuff, has a great explanation of the mad idea, the moment of separation, the instigation and institution of time, and how this whole notion, you know, what do we do when we're before we had any exposure to the Course of Miracles? I'm talking about myself now. What am I really here for? What is this all about? We're just a speck in the middle of the universe, and blah 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 blah. And this really talks about the devotion to death's idols, and that whole notion of who am I? Why am I here? What am I, just a speck? Or am I really part of everything? And everything is part of me, which is, to me, the lesson in the Course, that I have to transform from this tiny island of dry sand, basically, in a chaotic mind, to that being of freedom, of peace, of heaven, of happiness, of joy, of acceptance. You know, Noel said something about looking back, and you said, don't look back. There is no such thing as back. Right? I can look in that direction all I want. There is nothing there except what I make and take to it. I don't have to look anywhere. It isn't. And, you know, here he can accept the holy instant offered him to replace the unholy one he chose before. and that relationships are his salvation and not his doom. So I don't have to walk around by myself trying to see how am I going to figure this out, because that is a losing space. I can't figure it out. It's not meant for me to figure it out. What's meant for me is to say, I can't figure it out, and to turn it over to I can't grab that other trapeze without a person being on it to hold me. All right, I stopped there. I don't want to keep going on and on, but thank goodness it's an idea of understanding that the Holy Spirit is there, and I need to accept that, and I need to really let go and let God.
Indeed. Thank you, brother. Susie? You're muted.
Sorry, I wanted to just make one quick comment about what Noelle said. Like, I used to look back too, like, oh, maybe I don't want to do that. But once like healing occurs, you don't want to look back anymore. It's like once I feel really healed from one of those things that my ego had a huge hold on, it's healed. And I don't want to ever go back. Like, the thought to go back isn't even there, but it takes a lot of repetition. Like, that's why we have the lessons, right? To keep doing them and doing them and doing them. And that's like where Jerry was saying the trust comes in, that I can be healed if I keep choosing for the Holy Spirit and not for the ego. And when I do choose for the ego, it's just a mistake. Let it go, choose again. And it's a great feeling not to want to look back, not to even have the thought to look back. So I think that's why I keep going, because I just want more and more and more. And like you always say, Jonaca, we have to fall in love with healing.
Yes.
So I never thought it was possible, but I know that it is.
Nice. Thank you. Kim?
I just wanted to say that I love the sentence that says there is no order in relationships. And it reminds me that there's no order in difficulty either.
Right.
And so I just felt like I was supposed to say that, and how important it is that we have choice, faith, and boundaries here. So it is up to us. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, Kim. Thank you all. I love it when you all open your hearts and minds and souls to sharing. And I think to me, it illustrates here today, this meeting and other meetings, but I'm talking about today, here we learn relationships are our salvation. We learn from one another. We get together and we share our perspectives and our understanding, and it becomes a key, a gateway to our own salvation. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. David?
You who are learning this may still be fearful, but you are not immobilized. The holy instant is of greater value now to you than its unholy seeming counterpart. And you have learned you really want but one. This is no time for sadness, perhaps confusion, but hardly discouragement. You have a real relationship, and it has meaning. It is as like your real relationship with God as equal things are like unto each other. Idolatry is past and meaningless. Perhaps you fear your brother a little yet. Perhaps a shadow of the fear of God remains with you. Yet what is that to those who have been given one true relationship beyond the body? Can they be long held back from looking on the face of Christ? And can they long withhold the memory of their relationship with their Father from themselves and keep remembrance of his love apart from their awareness.
You know, this idea of trapeze, letting go metaphor is useful. And it says here, perhaps you still fear your brother a little. It's really referring to us all, this issue of trust, that if we let go of our ego identification, that we are going to be held safely and securely and happily in the arms of a spirit being that we can't see with our senses. It's and there is it's not to say we're done with this healing journey. Perhaps we still fear our brother a little yet, and we learn that that's part of the fear of God. Fear of your brother is but a shadow of the fear of God remains with us. And so it is a continuing along a journey of building trust. This is no time for sadness. Perhaps we don't have it all figured out. There's not perfect understanding, perhaps confusion, but hardly discouragement, in that now we have a direction and a purpose. We're not finished the healing journey, but we know that there is this inclusiveness in this relationship. Later on, we'll call this relationship the united will of the sonship. It's the reunion of your will with the will of all of creation. And that's where our eternal safety and security lies. So between now and then, be encouraged. This is now you know where to look. Now you know where it's going. Now you know where the meaning can be found. Doesn't mean we're done with it yet, but we now have orientation of where the firm foundation exists. And that's a huge improvement over being totally confused and ignorant and having everything upside down, where we actually love the fear and fear the love. It's a huge improvement from that state of complete confusion. So more to come. I just we're out of time here, so we're gonna wrap up. Just to say thank you all for being on the journey together. David, we hope that you'll keep coming back and reading, that you'll continue to discover opportunities are around the corner and they're still here for you. And I hope that that's true for everyone as well. Namaste.
Namaste, everybody. Good to see everybody.
Hey, Christoph.
Christoph, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Julie.
Good to see
Good to see
you.
everybody.
Thanks for reading, David.
Thank you,
got it.
David. Thank you, Jonaca.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Peace and
Jonaca.
love.
Bye,
Love you
everyone.
guys.
Love you guys.
Beautiful weekend. Much love.